So earlier we have seen about the pickle. Pickle is good for converting any data type to a pickle format. You can do. But the problem is that, so assume that someone created a pickle file and it was transported over the wire and something was changed in middle. So there is no way to understand if something was corrupted by a man in the middle attack, or like it was corrupted during the transmission, or so anything can happen. But so you don't know intactly that something has happened and there is no proper way of so understanding it. So for more reliability, pickle is not good thing. So pickle has that kind of security issue. To avoid this problem, so they came up with another format, which is called as shelve. Shelve is like a pickle, but with a slight difference. Pickle, after converting, we can see everything. It will be like this, right? Now we see shelve. How do we work with the shelve? This is another serialization format. So, but it will show the data in the .db files. Shelve is a format which will store the content in the .db files. So what is this? Yes. So that's how it works. It will store the values in a .db files. Till now, pickle means .pkl or text means .exe. So like that, everyone, the name and also the file format, both are same, right? But for the first time, you are seeing something like this. Means, first we need to have, so two things. But what is the point here is that they don't have a string. Earlier we have seen pickle, where I showed you two kinds of things. Either we can create a pickle format and dump to a file or to a string. Similarly, you can deflat from a file or from a string. Whereas if you go with the shell, the things are slightly different. So we can push everything to a file only. So how do you create a new shell file? Just create any file. So we can just tell that, hey, we want to create. So say like, so my file .db I wrote. So the moment I wrote like a my file .db, you should first select the kernel, right? Okay. So I created yes equal to like this. First I need to import, right? Import shell. After importing, so I want to show the list of DARs. Okay. So what all things we can do with this? You see, with shell we can do a lot many things. If you ignore the things which are like this, the other side we have these things like collection, open, that's it. So collections is another module which I told earlier, right? Like that. It is make using. From now you will see every module will make use of the other modules. So that's why we can see like the pickler, unpickler, these things are there, right? So that's how it works. So mostly you can see only one operation, which is the open. If I use the first one, open. By open, you are creating one a shell file. Say maybe like you want to call it as a file handler or whatsoever you want, you can do it. So after creating, if I say, hey, what is yes? It says shelve is of shelve.db file of shelf. So with that, what we can do after creating this, if you want to add something. So the only point is that whenever you create any file, so if you want to add, we need to add with a key. So during the transport, if someone want to corrupt it, they should know the key. Only if the key they know, they can come. So this is how we work. So to show you it all in one shot, so first you create the file and you add the values and close the file handler. So after this, if you want to access the content back again, how do you access? To access the content, again open off. So my file.db, you do. So you don't write more, read more, nothing. So if you open like this again, so now if I want to get the existing values, so existing equal to yes of the key. If I say key one, I got it. And if I print like, So existing value, if I get it right. And similarly, if I try to ask for say key2, which I don't have, what it is saying? It is throwing a big error. So key error. So how to handle it? So try so and so except key error, right? Key error. So we can say that no such key. See, it's a key error. We don't have that key. So if someone want to corrupt, they need to have the key. If they don't have the key, they cannot get the values. So that's how the security they try to add. So, and like, not only that, by default, so whenever you're opening any of this shell file, see, whenever you want to add the content also, you did in the same way. Whenever you want to retrieve the values also, you open in the same way. You're not mentioning the mode. But see here, so there is one thing. If I say like, my file.db, I opened again. And this time I want to check the value. Say like, I want to check the existing value. I opened, I have the existing value. What are the existing values? This thing, right? The key one. Say like, for this, I want to add something else. So I'm modifying it. After modifying, like, I'm asking, hey, what is the value? After modifying, if I ask, hey, what is the value means? Did you see the change? Did you observe what I'm trying to say? So you opened a file and you checked the values, but after subsequently you modified it. Means in this key there should be one more value. But did you see that there is nothing like new value? So what could be the reason? So the reason is simple, that like whenever you are opening, by default shell do not track the modifications. So to avoid any kind of problem. So when first time when you open, as it is not there, it is taking whatever you're taking and it is doing. So that's why after that, subsequently, when you're opening also, you can retrieve them. So if you ask for another keys, it's not there. But subsequently, if you do any changes after opening, so it is not reflecting. Then how, sir? So if your modifications need to be reflected, so modifications will be there means yes. But in the next iteration, we need to check. After closing this iteration, next time you ask again, say my file .db, and I'm asking the values. You see what saying? Hey, so key one is not there. Why key one is not there? Shell.open, we did. My file, sorry, I did a mistake. So file name is my file. If I execute, did you see? So modifications are not reflected even in the second time. Then in that case, so how do you make the changes and also reflect outside? If you want to make the changes subsequently, see for the first time when you're doing, if you don't give mode also, fine. So it can take the values and store. And subsequently, every time you can retrieve only. If you want to update, that's where like we need to update with a flag. Say my file dot db write back equal to true. See, for the first time it is not mandatory, but subsequently it is needed for making any modifications. And after that, if I do before and after, and then finally close, did you see now? Before changes and after changes. So not only that, even after closing this, this also, subsequently, if you ask, did you notice that the new change is there? So conclusions. Conclusions is like, shell must not be opened. So by default, by write mode enabled, unless it is really essential. So for creating, it's not needed first time, but subsequently, if you want to modify, you should be aware of this point. Hope it's clear.
Yes.
Yeah. So after this, so you created a file, right? So fine. Every time you created these files, but did I show you these files where they are and how they are? let's say home port OS. So OS dot list dir. If you see now, did you see files were created? See, every time when I'm trying to access, earlier you remember, I tried to access a wrong file name, right? Even that was also created. Means till now, if you're opening the pickle or anything else, the file name is not present, it will throw like, IO error. The file not present like that, errors. But shell will never say IO error. Even if your file is not missing also, it says key error. So that's a crazy thing about this module. So this is like this. But like it is short-lived. People found like it is very difficult. So for non-secured information, people are using pickle. Then they should go for this one, right? But by the time this came, evolution, if you see, databases also matured. So people thought of going for databases or like more structured things. So the next most structured thing is about XML. If you remember the last decade before, so XML literally ruled the entire world. So the beauty of XML is that so whenever you are writing anything, so you need to write in a perfect structure. So I will tell you a simple example. If I say like IPYNB XML, if you are not aware of what is an XML, it is like a typical like a HTML. What are you seeing these days? Is created from that only XML. So XML, structured markdown, extensible markup language. So basically, so XML is the main thing from which HTML was created. So that's why still now many people ask what is the difference between XML and HTML. XML is mainly used for like storage or transport. So, but like it is much more complicated. HTML is a lighter version of it, mainly used for displaying in a browsers. And XML point is like it has the concept of tags. So everything that you write should have a tag, proper tags. If I take like one example, so I should have the tags like this. You observe this file. I am writing like a tag. When there is an opening tag, it should be having a closing tag also. And also within that, there were many open and close tags. So everything is like a block. So don't you think if something was corrupted now, it won't be evaluated? Obviously. So if say author is there, and the other side also there should be author only with a closing tag. For every tag, there will be twice. So opening tag, closing tag, opening tag, closing tag like that. Now let's see how do we create one such file and slowly we can penetrate. So for working on XMLs, there are primarily three types of modules. One is the XML module, XML E3 we say. So like we have LXML. So there were like many other modules are there, but these two are more famous. So modules among all. So there are some modules like XML to dict also, so for like parsing and converting to dictionary. So like that, there are some modules are there. Python modules. So how do you work with it? Let's see. So first, if you can focus on the LXML. So there is something called as XML. Import XML if I do. It's like, markdown. That's why it's not working. So we need to change to. Okay. Import XML. And if you ask print of XML, so we need to select the Python interpreter. If I execute, did you notice? So it has a good number of attributes will be there with XML, but like you can primarily see the DOM and parsers, nothing more. Yes. So that's why till now modules we are using in a particular way. So from now the modules you need to in a slightly different way. So instead of directly doing, so you should focus on the other side. In XML, so there is this is the most common way of using. There is something called as E tree. So what is this E tree? what it will do. Let's see. You see, this is called as a alias import. You are taking a subset of it from a XML dot E3. So elementary. But did you see there is no, E3, right? So that is how some modules will be there. So in DAR, we cannot see them. And how they are defined means based upon how they package it. So it's not not difficult for you to understand. Once you start learning, you will remember the syntaxes. So similarly, with in XML, we also take one more thing. So there are totally 3 types of things we take it. So XML.E3 as ET. This is a alias import. This is called as a selective import. So, and like the third one is import, this kind of selective import. So these are the 3 things we need to import. So hopefully slowly you will understand how things will happen. If I take the first one called as a one element called as a root, I am taking an element called as a root, and for that element I want to add a child. So if you want to take the main thing that is called as a root, and for that I am adding a child, sub element of root comma child. See how I have pulled sub element, and for that sub element I want to add a something like a text. Say I am a text, and like I want to add like one more child. See, first you have a root, under that you have a child, under that you have one more child, but the second child we didn't add anything. Okay, so finally you have this root which is containing all this information. If you ask, hey, what is a root, you get nothing. But so there is something called as toString, right? So using toString we can say, hey, toString of this root, you ask. Did you see it is showing in some kind of string? Now you are understanding. But did you see that it was starting with a B? It's a B string. When you have any binary string, so if you want like an ordinary string, we need to use something called as decode. And how do you decode? UTF-8. That is a Unicode format. The moment I decode, did you see? The B was removed, right, in the starting? Fine. Now I want to print this string. So, okay, maybe like I want to say result string is equal to result XML string is equal to something I have. So print of result XML string. Did you see I got the content? So I showed a good example for you to understand. But now so this is how the result is. Fine. And similarly, now how do you convert it? You have a content. So you have a root. Within that root you have child. Like this you have. Everything is good. Now how do you write this content to a file? If you want to write to a file, same like the how we did earlier, we need to first open a file. So with open of, say I'm saying a underscore say write write XML. So we need to do with a raw XML. So .xml should be the format, and we need to open in a write mode. That should be compulsory. And you do F or file handler. You do. So for that file handler dot write of what are the content we have. Say result XML string is there, right? Which is there. So now we need to print that. So now you see here. So import os dot list dir. Did you see that a new file called as XML was created? So if you want to see the content, I do a Linux command cat a file, right? It is a Linux command. That's what I'm showing. See how you have done the same thing I'm showing here, right? So first to a string. So object to XML string. This is like what? Object to XML file. So that's what the difference between these two. Hope you understood how we are converting from your Python object to like this. Fine. Similarly, if you want to make it much more better, there is another way using like this one. So I think over a period of time, you'll understand the syntax. I showed you to import this mini DOM, right? So xml.mini DOM. Maybe like I want to take it down so that you can understand here more better. So I will show you. There is one more thing called as mini DOM. So how you will understand over a period of time means with this one. So if I do like this, you see, from mini DOM dot parse string of e3 dot string of so and so dot so to pretty XML indent equal to like this. Now you see the same thing how it will be. It is writing. So I wrote to a new file called as to underscore XML, right? Let me open and show you. So cat so and so. Now did you see? It is doing much better, right? And did you see the content was more clear and easy for you to understand? How it is done? So the simple steps. First I created a root. Under that I added a child. And second child I added a string. So for every child the you add, it will be like this. But it seems like a bit complex, right? A too much thing we need to write. But that is a very simple thing. You can write it. So next, there is one more way to do it. Or if you want me to do, I can do one more example. So how we can take it? So take the same content, how you are creating the root and doing it. So maybe like I want to create, say, book. So root is a better notation for us to do. It doesn't mean that everything should be a root. So you create a root. So sorry. So from this file, first what I did, I created a file, and for that I created, right? So I told you, no, so you need to import this one so that you remember every time. So element is there. So first you create an independent element. Say my element name is that book. Book is the element name. Within that I want to add something. Say within that book I want to child like child is equal to, first to better remember. Is it a sub element, right? Part of something. Part of which thing? So we need to write to that. Book root is one of the object which you have. For that you want to add. Say like I want to do book one. Say so I wrote like so book one, child one. I wrote like this. Similarly, child two is equal to sub element of. So to whose root? Same book root. I'm writing like book two. And similarly, I say like so sub child one is equal to sub element of. So whose I'm doing right now, child two I'm saying. Book two one I am doing. Did you see now what happening? I first created one tag, then from that another, so another like that. Now from this, if I want to create XML object, so how I need to do? So ordinary way also I can do, in pretty much way also I can do. So if I want to do an ordinary string and print it, so how I do? Every time. If I want to create an ordinary string, this is how I print. Ordinary XML string. And if I print that string, so you can notice it, right? If I do it, it will execute and you get the output. And if you want to do in a pretty much way, so what is the way I told? So you can take the string like XML string, same. So result str2, I do it. And if I say like print of result str2, you see now what happened? The difference you understood? So ordinary print also you can do, pretty print also you do. When you're doing a pretty XML, this is one thing. You can specify how much indentations every time it needed and all these things. You can see the XML version and everything. So that is the difference between these two. After doing this, the next one is about LXML. LXML. This is another module. What is this LXML doing? Same like this, but the syntax is much more easy for you to do. So sometimes, people do very smartly. So this is one of the production code. That's why I brought as it is. You see, they are doing like import LXML. From LXML import E3. So if you don't know, module not found error will come, right? In that case, we are printing the error. And from OS import syst. So sys is like any command line things we can install, right? So from that I want to install the LXML as a user and then import. It's very interesting. First, if module is not there, it will throw in error and it will do it. It's kind of like self-healing, right? It's interesting. It will install it. So now I can check like, I imported only the E3. So here also we can create. Say this time I want to create a root. So E3 dot element. So from E3 element, like this we can do. And similarly, the second time you want to create a child. So I can do like this. So child one is equal to element dot this of child. Means here it is different, the syntax. There you remember earlier, every time we should say sub element. At that time itself, we should know to whom it should be a sub element. Whereas in LXML, you define everything as an ordinary element and you decide to whom to append what. If you append the same thing to another one, so that will work. Similarly, if I for the same thing, if I want to add, child 2, and I'm creating. When you're creating, everything will be same. So here for child 2, I added the text also. But did I add this child 2 to anything? No, I didn't add to the root, right? So fine. But if you add to the root, you can notice the difference. So if I add to the same thing to a root, now we have, so one root, two childs. Now if I print this string, you can notice that. Print, say XML string. So if I print of XML string, did you notice what happened? So if you want to decode, okay, so here also you can write decode of, so UTF-8. If I do, you can notice the string is coming good, right? So simple syntax, LXML, and that too, LXML is much more faster because half of the code is written in C language, so it is much more faster. And for the same thing, I will do a small change. So I take this time the same content. I'm not writing to file. If you want to write to file, the same logic again. So see here. So I appended this to the child only. So what if I do the same thing? Means I also append this child one to child one dot append of child 2 if I do. Did you observe the difference? So earlier I did like this. Now this child one, I am appending to child. So it's like child 2 is part of the child 1. That's the reason, see here, how the changes are different compared to this. So it is up to us. So that's why LXML format is much better. And here, from here, if you want to create to a string, the same thing. So how do you open a file? The same logic, open, same, so b underscore LXML based file dot XML. If I create, so how do I create? Write mode. So the same structure is same again. File handler dot write of this one. If you do, it will work. It will create the file and so and so. So I can say now in the current directory cat, so b lxml, so based file dot xml dot xml. If you see, the content is there, right? So don't you think LXML is much better compared to others, right? So that's the advantage. So after that, so this is how you understood how to create. Now, how do you parse the strings? That is another interesting thing. So how do you parse it? So let me take a new file. So it means like I need to take like book.xml. I'm taking one XML file called as book.xml, and now I want to parse it. Earlier, remember, I showed you a file, right? The same thing I'm doing. I have a catalog Within that catalog, I have books. So books, everything is a book. Now I need to parse it. So how do you parse it? So maybe like I'll write another file. So b underscore parsing xml dot ipyng. Okay. So I do now. Select the kernel. I did it. Yeah. So first and foremost, if you want to parse it, there is a module called as L from etree import parts. So initially it will be a bit learning for you to what to take among all. So after importing, I took like tree, and then I'm asking, hey, what is a tree? It says tree is an object, so it should take. But what it's saying, hey, no such file books.xml. Did I create like books.xml or book.xml? So maybe like to make the syntax easy, I'm modifying this as books.xml. Now this time if I execute again, did you see now? I got some object, etree object. Now from this, so if I want to first print the content, right? So I tried and I understood. Now what to do with this parse? If I say like print of dir of this tree, you will understand that it has a lot of attributes like this. So fine, it has like, so find is there, find all is there, find text is there, means for finding something, and parsing is there, writing is there, so and so. Now we are not interested in writing, which I showed earlier. Now we are interested in parsing and finding some things. If you want to find for something within it, we can do that. What all things we can get and all these things I'll do. So first, if I want to check the presence of a particular tag in the XML, so what are the tag that I want to search? I should specify that. So if I say here, if I execute, see here, from this etree, I want to find for something like this. I want to check for this value. I'm checking for book. Does it have a book? Find all of books I'm doing. How many books are there? These many books are there. You see now in this tag, if you see book tag within the catalog, it has a book, right? So this is a tag name called as book. So every catalog, it will start like this, right? Everything. So it is an opening tag, closing tag, opening tag, closing tag. So we are checking for this and you're doing it. Let me paste it in the split right side so that you can remember it. Now you see here, I'm asking for a book. How many times books are there? It is showing all the books. So it is for find all. If I'm asking, I'm getting all the books. Now I want to parse each of them and I want to do, say like I'm saying print of each I'm doing. Each time I'm parsing and asking the same thing, right? What is happening there? It's coming. So I don't know like what to do with this. I do a DAR of this each to understand what I can do. If I ignore the things which have underscores on either side, still they have a lot of things like text and others. So means for each of this content, instead of just printing, I want to just like, dot text if I want to ask. Now, did you understand? Let me remove this. You'll understand now. So each time asking, hey, what is the text? It is saying I don't have any text. Okay. So did you see that? Is there anything between these two tags? So between these two through tags, there was 3 subtags are there. But is there any text associated with this book tag? Directly. There is no directly text, right? So that's why when you're asking, you got nothing. Then like what else we can get? In the same fashion, as it has nothing, so I will go for the next one. There is something called as attribute. You can check for the attributes. If you want to check for the presence of any attribute and its value, you get like this. So I am going through each of the value and I'm getting the attribute. Did you see I got the attribute ISBN number? So within every tag, you can have like this called as attributes. So I can have like, so some A is equal to 12, so B is equal to so and so, like that. But everything should be structured. If any small change is there, so it will throw in error. Yet we cannot get that. That's why XML is very so comfortable. So, and like what else we can do? So I got an XML, and from that, each of the attribute, sure. So you are going to each of them, but you need to do something else. So we understood the attributes, but further, if I want to go, so each is each is an again object, right? So in that object, I want to further navigate. So how do I do that? Let's see. So again, so I do so each attribute further within it. For each sub in each, I'm trying to print some each sub, right? Each sub. If I try execute, what is saying? Oh, each time I'm getting. So if you want to get a print after each of the sub things, I can give like empty so that you can understand. Did you all understand now? So for each of them, you are able to go. So each of the tags. Now from these tags, I want to get. So I want to get each of the tags and go and check so if each sub of, so it is a tag. Every tag has a tag text and all this information. So like this information, find all, get all, and all elements. So now what I need to do, instead of going for all of them, I want to get only the titles. In that case, what I can do, so I can do like each dot find all of. So earlier also you did a find all, right? Like that, you want to only the titles. Say this time you see here, you get only the titles. If I remove this, you can understand. Only the titles are there. So for each of those titles, you want to get the text. Did you see now? You got the text of each of them. Maybe like you want to get the list of all tags, you can do that. So maybe so you want to get the tags, and so for that, like a titles is equal to a list, and you can append to that list. So print of, you see now, you got all the content and so and so. So this is how I parse a typical file. Now you need to do a small enhancement to it. So you can do the same thing like read. So enhance it by changing the values of this as a tuple containing. So you need to create like a dictionary which contains so the book titles, so author and date. So like that you need to print it like a dictionary. So I did parse only the titles, but you need to parse the entire content and convert. So hope it's clear. So similarly, in the same fashion, there is one more module. If I can go directly to it, there is one more module called as XML to dict. If you want to parse it, so that is very interesting. So XML to dict. I told you the syntax, right? If you don't have, we need to import like this, so that if it is not there, it will automatically install. So whenever I used to do in some of the programs like this, but this is not a best practice. Every time we need to install, right? So there are better ways of dependency management, which I will tell later. So instead of doing like every time try except like this, so we will store all the requirements in one place so that before starting it will check and it will do. But somehow now XML to dict is a module which we have. What to do with that? So I need to parse the content. So how? So in this way, when you're working, I have books.xml. I need to read right now because I'm not writing it, right? So what are the file content I get? Same like in a other way. Whenever you're reading, entire thing we are reading like a string. So after reading that content, we need to pass that content to the XML to dict module. This XML to dict dot parse of this content. So if you have string also you can pass. Like this also you can pass. So after that, if you want to take the content and you work on it. Say after this you come out of it, if you ask like print of, hey, print of this doc. What are the object is there? So did you see that it is showing the entire object? If you want to better understand it, so I can say like from tprint. Hope you remember there are two things I told. From preprint, import pprint, which is a common thing everyone does. Like a print only this is, but it will show the things in a better way. At the same time, there is one more module I told. From pprint, import pp. This is very few people know about this. So pp as of this same doc if I do. Now did you see? The difference between pprint and pp is that the order in which you gave also will be retained. So here they may or may not be retained. So you see here, we have the ISBN, author, date, title. So first author is coming, right? Did you see who came first? Title, date, author, right? So did you see? When you did PP, you got exactly what it was stored. Now if I compare both of them side by side, don't you think I got like a list of, dictionary entire thing? Within the tag, we have this one, this, like this. This is one of the beautiful modules for doing many things. Similarly, I showed you how to parse, right? There is one more attribute called as like unparse. So means like converting the dictionary back to XML. Using this unparse, you can do that. Means you have now this dictionary. From that, you create a new file called as books2.xml. So it's not a big deal. You just need to understand. So my thought process is like you need to understand how to approach a new module if you don't know. Hope it's clear. So going further, let's go ahead. Next, after this, we can work on the next module called as, so after this, there is something called a CSV. So XML is very good. Even till date, everyone agrees that XML is the best. But still, XML is not that comfortable for beginners. If they want to add or add anything, it's very difficult. So for that, they came up with something called as CSV. So CSV has like sub modules, like a TSV. So CSV means like comma separated values, and TSV means like a space separated. So like dat and all these things are like similar things, part of it. So first you are thinking of writing this CSV files. So writing so CSV, how do you write? So writing, so like a unstructured file. How you write an unstructured file? Like that also you can do. So write using CSV module. So writing using a CSV module. So also writing using pandas. This is another module we have. From now you will see about this module called as pandas, which can do all these things. Similarly, so we can do reading also. So these are the various things we have. So if I can start with first, how do you create a file? So typically, you know how a CSV will be there, comma separated. All the values you have, but it will be like everything will be comma separated. So first with open up, this is how you open any file, right? So first dot CSV I have. So I need to open in write mode because you cannot read anything right from this. So as if I do file handler, so within that file handler, we need to do a write. So if I do anything, then you can notice it. So first I need to select the kernel. Yeah. So within that I need to write. Say like if I do so A, B, C. So I just did like a comma separated. You write anything, it can give that, right? So I am writing like this. Say 1, 1, 2, 3. And similarly file handler dot write of 4, 5, 6. I need not go with closing this file because the file will be automatically created in the backend. And if I say in the current directory, if I say cat first.csv, you can notice that the file is there and the content is there. So of course it works like this. But you know the problem here? The problem is that you didn't place a slash n at the end. If I place a slash n, similarly, slash n, slash n, and subsequently if I ask the same statement, you can notice the same. You see now. Now, don't you think like it is appealing like a CSV file for you? So the CSV concept is very simple. All the values will be comma separated, and your first row is the header. In a DAT file, the same like a CSV, but there won't be any header. You should know the header from some other way to get it. That's it. In TSV means like the tab separated. Instead of a comma, there will be a tab. That's the only difference. But this is how you created a typical file. But sir, if I want to make something more meaningful, let me go with one more good example. Say this time I'm writing like this. Say like no, so employee employees.csv I have. If I write, I'm writing serial number, name, age, destination. I got like 1, 2, 3 people. So after doing this thing, if I ask a cat employees.csv, you can notice the content. So fine. Now we have this one. This is how you created one file. So why I'm showing every time in the terminal? I can show the same thing here also, right? So you can see the first file or the employees file. So fine. How a typical CSV file is there, you understood. Now after this, so similarly you created now. How do you read it? So method one. So using directly how you will read means, so reading or like parsing using like unstructured files. How you do in the same fashion. If I do, you can notice that. Fine. So first I open the file. So using a traditional method. So with open of what are the file is there? Employees, right? .csv. So I need to be in a read mode. If I do write mode, that's the end. Everything will be flushed out. So be careful as file handler. And from say file handler dot read. Same like that. If you have read, then what I do? I'll get the entire thing like a string. So if I say like file content is equal to like this. Okay, file content is like this. So if I print like, after you got the value, you can come out of the indentation level. If I say like file content, you got the file content. And this is of type string, right? Type of file content. And if you ask subsequently what is a file content, it is of type string. You got it. And like from this, if you want to get the values, so there is another way called as split lines. If you have any string and if there are multiple slashes, and if you want to divide by that, that's where we have like split lines. So if you just do the file content, see, if I print the content, did you see there are multiple slashes? Now, if I do the same thing, okay, if I do like this, now you can understand that it has multiple lines. So serial number, name, age, destination, so and so you have. Fine. After this, did you see wherever the split is there, it's happening. Instead of you explicitly writing like content dot split of slash n. So don't you remember? So like this also you can get it right. But did you see in the last case, the slash n, one more line is coming, right? Extra. It is first flush off everything. So that's the difference between split and split lines. So after splitting the lines, I can go to each of the line and get the content. So to consolidate all the content in one shot. So in the first method, how I do. So for each line in So file content dot split lines. I go. So print like each line. If I do each line, I got it right. Say in that I want to get the name. So don't you think like I need to do a split? If I do split, I will do what? If I am doing split, by default, try to split with a comma. Sorry, as a space, but it's not there. So you need to add the extra split to split the content. So from this, you know the second value is the name. So I get like 0, 1. If I do, I got the names. So from that, I need to say like names is equal to like this, and I get say like so names dot append of like this. And finally, if I say print names, like say names, you see, it's a list of all the values. So don't you think it's interesting? But did you observe one interesting thing here? So you got the header also, right? Name. So you don't want that. Then what I can do? From the split, you don't want the first value. If I do like this, it is doing an extra slice. Or like you can do an index and you can ignore it. That is another way. Fine. So this is how you did it, especially. So what is it a better way of doing? There could be a much better way of doing things, right? So for doing that, there is another module. So you CSV. So it is does the things much better way. Reading the same things using this CSV module. How do we do and how things works? Import CSV. After importing, if I say like print of dir of CSV, if you execute, did you see it has dict reader, dict writer? So all these things are there. So what is this? Here also you can see a reader, writer. So get dialects and all these things are there. So what are these and what we can do? And see here. So same like the earlier file, here also we can do here. Say with open of again the employees.csv. Ensure to do read mode. If you do right, that's it. You won't get the content back again. So very careful. So I get the content. Till now, what you did? File content is equal to file handler.read, right? So that's what we did. So in this method, so what we do is like method 2. So instead of getting like this, so the file content is equal to, so you take the file handler and CSV, so CSV dot reader. You do a reader of, you pass your file handler, whatever is there. So by default, there is something called as delimiter. If you don't write also, it checks for the comma and split, right? You need not do this explicitly, again splitting, again asking like this, and you get the content. That's it. So after getting the content, if I want to get the values, say for each line in, so file content, if I say print of each line, did you see what happened now? It is saying like what? File operations on a closed file. Yeah, indentation level. So because you are doing the CSV header, right? So you didn't get all the content here. Observe the difference. Here you got all the content as a string. That's why you came out of the indentation. And even the file closed also, you can do the operations. But here it's not the case, right? You are not getting all the content. So every time it is going and getting. So that's why when you came outside indentation, it is throwing another. So within that I asked, I got it. So did I again split by slash m, and again split by comma? I didn't do all those things, right? So it's very easy now. So after doing this, now if I say I want to get each of the thing, I know like each time it will give all the values. If I say the first value, I'm gonna get the first values. I get it. And from that, if I want to know the names, so this is how I do, right? Say names 2 is equal to names. And I can do what? Names 2 dot append of this thing. And finally, if I print, you can come out of the context because you got all the file related things, file related operations, and you got it. So both are same. But still here, see here, you have one more value. The names is coming. So means you want to skip the first value. So if you want to skip the first value, so the most common way of doing is like, so using a so next built-in function. This is a very interesting thing. You know, if you have an iterator, because so file handler becomes an iterator object. If you want to get one value at a time, you can use next. That is how you do for generators and iterators, right? Here also same thing. So one value you want, but you are not assigning to anything. So it will give the first value. So it will skip. You need not do indexing and all these things. No, if I execute, did you see I got it? So don't you think this is the most clean way of doing the things? So using this one. And also, so we can also do in much better way. So in during the reading, so I can say like, CSV dot dict reader. So till now we have seen what? So just a reader, right? So reader. The same example I do in a slightly different way. So this time, so example method 3, I do instead of a reader, I do like dict reader. What is the difference, sir? You see? So if you want to skip the record in this dict reader also same thing. So skipping the header will happen. Everything will happen. Say like I want to print the entire things. So print off. So each line. You see now what happened? You got the entire content, the file content, right? So you got the entire content printed like a serial number and so and so. You are skipping the first value, second value, like that you are skipping. So because like you didn't get the first value because you were skipped here. So you should not skip it here. So if I don't skip, now did you see now I got the values? So you do not need this kind of extra skipping also. So did you see now all the 3 lines? So you came like this now. I can do whatever values I want. So if I say like, it says same lines, if I say names. So instead of like this, I can say like names 2, or like say this time names 3 dot append of each line dot of name. So tomorrow here now there are 3 columns, fine. Tomorrow if there are 17 columns or 18 columns, so we cannot tell every time like go to the 16th value, 15th value. It's very difficult. Now things are much more easy, right? So if I ask like, hey, give me these values, you got it. The same names in a much better way. So like this we can do. And there is another way. So instead of doing all this hard work, anyhow, like we will work on this afterwards also. You have a mod CSV dot this one, right? There is one module called as pandas. So import pandas as PD. This is the most common thing you see every time. You see now, you are trying to install, it is throwing an error. So how do you install a module? I told using the try except module, like that you can do. So in the same fashion, so you can also do in a command line, right? Let me do that directly to you. I told in a Jupyter notebook, if you write exclamation, any command line thing we can do here. If I say like pip install -u pandas -user. For the current user, I want to install pandas. If it is not there, install. If it is there, update it. That's what you're trying to say. Then in the back end, it will install it and give you the result. So using that, we can do. In due course of it working, so I can tell like here, method 4, using pandas. So how we do here? So it's very simple. Here it is called as a data frame is equal to PD, pandas. So first we need to import pandas. So import pandas as PD. Sir, why every time people say PD? Means it's like a alias. You can write your own alias, but like that is the most popular, people use it. Data frame is equal to. So pandas dot. If I want to read, say like read CSV. Trust me here, if you want to read, there was a lot of attributes. You want to read a CSV, you want to read Excel, so Parquet, so HTML, whatnot. Any file format you can read here. So it has those many attributes. That's why down the line, as a data engineer, we read this a lot. If I say employees.csv, that's it. And after reading, if I say like, hey, what is a DF? So DF means like data frame. So data frame means like till now, list, tuple, set, dictionary. These are data structures. So data frame means like it is two-dimensional data structure. See, at one shot, you can see the names and the values all at one shot. Now, if you want to get the names, so df of name, if I say name, I get all the names. And if I want to get the list of all values, in one shot I can do. So list of df.names. I got it right. So which one do you prefer among these four methods? Definitely pandas, because they're a lot easier, right? But so we understand that. So these are all the different ways of doing. Any doubt till now? Okay. If not, so writing CSVs. So till now you understood how to read. So first you wrote some writing, but similarly, so you understood an ordinary way of writing. So it's very difficult. So using these dictionaries also we can write, right? So this is what more important whenever you're writing. If I want to write, so till now what happens is like uh, with open of say like uh, second.csv, I want to write something, maybe like the same employees or something I want to say, um, employee2.csv I want to write. Whenever I want to write, I need to do in a write mode as file handler fh. This is the most common things. And so there are two ways in which you can write it. So whenever you want to write, so we can say that writer is equal to csv.writer we take, and for that you pass the file handler and you pass the delimiter equal to again comma. If you don't write delimiter, by default it will take comma. So instead of directly writing, it will do the things in this way. So if you say writer dot write row, there are two things, write row and write rows. If I say write row, I need to write a row of things. So maybe like so I have a first thing I want to write like name. So earlier we have name, age, or like serial number, name, age, some designation. I have something. Or similarly, if I want to do a writer dot write row of, say like I have some values, I can specify them. You see? So write row like this. Or else writer dot write rows means like if you have multiple rows, you can do like this. So if there were like multiple rows, you can achieve that. Say like the same thing whichever I did earlier. I have like multiple list of say list of lists or like tuple of lists or anything, iterable of lists. So this is how you can write, or like this also you can write. So if I achieve that, and subsequently if I ask, hey cat employ 2.csv, did you see now? We got the content. But this is the most common thing people will face. The moment you come to Python 3, so this is the thing. But did you see any mistake here in your problem? So why you are getting empty lines every time? This is the most common thing everyone will face in Python 3. So in Python 3 2 it exactly works, but in Python 3 you need to add one more thing called as so new line. So there is something called as new line is equal to empty. So the same thing I do in a slight different way. If I do new line equal to empty, and if I ask the same cat of the file, did you see now? Means by default in Python 3, what they did is like new line equal to /n. Again, to add a new line. That's what they added. That's why in Python 3, when you are using, you need to do this. Trust me, everyone will face this issue whenever they do. To make the things much more easy, so don't you think like this is your header? So if I can to write the header, okay. After writing the header, you can write the values. So even header also you do in the same way, right? But fine. But what if I want to do the things in a better way? Maybe like I want to add a different delimiter. How can do what? I can just change it. So delimiter, say like instead of this one, hope you see some files will have colon as a delimiter. I can do simply like this. I made the delimiter which has changed. So after changing it, and subsequently I'm asking, hey, what are the values? Did you see the delimiter and the values? And similarly, if I want to change, so the most common delimiters are like even tab space. So if I do like this, it will in fact create something called as a TSV if you are writing. So there is something called as TSV. Either you write TSV or not, it's up to you. But if you want to create, so this is how you create. So dot TSV. You see now? So tab space. So basically, if you work with, so Microsoft related things, most of the times you'll see the same things. So TSV, where delimiter is so and so. So like that you understood in terms of delimiter how to change the things. In the same fashion, there is one more way of better doing these things. Sir, okay, there are 3 columns, 4 columns, fine. What if there are 17 columns? In data engineering, you will work like that only. So we don't know to which header, which value is going, right? So if you want to exactly distinguish, you need to have a better way of doing. So for that, instead of writer, so there is something called as dict writer. Hope you remember like a dict reader earlier. In the same fashion like this, there is something called a dict reader. When you're doing a dict writer, so before doing, so we need to have this header names. It will expect the header names. Header name is called, sorry, field names. Field names is equal to, we need to pass the headers. So whatsoever the headers we have, the headers we need to pass. So for that, people will do what? They will first define the headers, and they do header names is equal to like this. And that passes like an argument here, header names. So no, you need not write explicitly. And now the process is different. Instead of writing, so you can do like this. If you want to write a single record, so you need to write like this, write header. So first you need to define the header. So write the values and do it. So maybe like I am marking it as employee3.tsv. If I do like this, observe. So, and we should not write like a list. We should write like a dictionary. Means every time when you're writing, you should know with respect to the dictionary we are passing. So like this, we need to write like this. So instead of directly like this, so 1 Aquila's 11 carpenter. So I can do like this, serial number so and so. Now, don't you think that it is much better way when you're handling? If anything changes also, it's easy. Say instead of doing like this, you need to write. So list of dictionaries you need to pass. So here also single dictionary. So when you're passing like a dictionary, you know, okay, for name only I'm passing Neha. For name only I'm passing Hiral. So designation only I'm passing all these things. So don't you think things are much more easy here now? If I see right now .tsv, did you see the same content came? Now this kind of things can handle much better things. If you have much better data also, you can do. Hope it's clear now. Now, if I want to now add like a non-English characters, then how to handle this problem? So non-English characters also we can do in the same way. Say, if I want to create something like a non-English characters, I do like non-English.csv, right here. So new line equal to so and so. Encoding also I'm giving. Because I want instead of FH file handler, I'm doing GH. Now, I want to create a file handler with some header names. So first I write the header names. with these header names I want to create. So I do like writer is equal to dict writer of, same thing I do. Dict writer of this file handler, instead of gh, so fh it should be gh now, right? I'm writing it. So delimiter is something I wrote. So so if you don't mind also you can write comma. Field names also I give. Now if I want to write the headers, so this is most important thing. After diving the statement, we need to write it. Only if you do this one, the right headers will be written. And subsequently, you can write with respect to that. Say like I want to, instead of a dict writer, I want to use an ordinary writer. Then how do? You don't pass like fields again. If you want to do like an ordinary field. So you need to pass these header names like a right row. If I do like this, what? You can write individual rows, as I told you earlier. And similarly, so if you want to write one more row, you do like this. Or if you have like multiple rows, you can do it. So you can do it. And you need not close the gh dot, so close, which is not mandatory. But if you close also, it will work. If you don't close also, it will do. But what else you can do is like flush. So if you do like a flush, so it will ensure that. But flush also will happen before we are doing it. So it's not needed, both of them. So after doing both the things, if I ask, hey, cat, so non-English .csv, if I ask, you can notice that. Did you see what all languages I want to add? Every language I added and it worked. So how? Because I added the encoding is equal to UTF-8. So like that, if I can do anything like this. And similarly, so when you're storing, so there is one more thing called as a dialect. So import in the CSV module, CSV dot list dialects. There is one attribute called as list dialects. So if I ask like, it is saying like there are 3 types of dialects I have: Excel, Excel tab, and Unix. So you till now you didn't pass this as dialect, right? Let me take the same example, whatever we have. Say I took the same example. Instead of non-English, I'm saying non-English 2. Non-English 2. So here also I want to print non-English 2. So here, so I can pass a dialect. Dialect means when you're creating a CSV, right? So we can pass additional parameters. So there is something called as dialect as a Excel or Excel tab, so like Unix format. So if I do now, you can notice that the file which is created, dialect is an invalid keyword argument for open, it is saying. Maybe now things are changed. So I can check for the open here. What all the attributes are there? If I do a control C, so it will come. Maybe in the new version they changed the dialect, or like so maybe this dialect now should be passed as an input to here, because like every time when the language evolution happens, they change, right? So maybe like here I'll pass. Okay, dialect equal to. Yeah, see, it's working. So now we need to pass the dialect like this, the same content, but dialect. Instead of passing in the open, in the CSV dot writer or so and so when you are creating, there you need to pass. Sir, will it make any difference? Sir, means I don't have any so Microsoft Excel to read, Word to read, but if you have a Microsoft Word, when you're reading both, so you'll understand it. The syntax won't change and things will be exactly the same. If you see here, so when you're observing, we don't have much difference. But like when you're opening in a Word, that's where you'll understand the difference. So like this, there are different ways of doing the things. And if I can add like different kinds of dialects which I showed, yeah. If you want to further format the CSV file, there were different options for you. You can make use of them. You see the code characters if you want, means whenever we have any character when you're using, so within the word we have like say quotes, then how do you handle it? Or like if you have a commas within your, let's say your name is, so assignment for you is that like so create a CSV file with delimiter as comma and So sum of the field values have comma within them. If there is a comma within them, and how do you handle it? So do this assignment. If you understand this one, so you can solve many of this, so data engineering problems. So because that is one of the most important. Okay. Next, going further, as we have seen earlier the XML, so we can quickly go to the HTML also. HTMLs are another files like XMLs only, which can help you. 05 HTML. Quickly to walk it. So HTML, if you want to read and write the same way, pynd. Okay. So the same logic we take the file, we can read the content and parse it and adding attributes. Everything is same. So if you want to create HTML also, but to be frank, you don't create a HTML. So you create like XMLs only. In real world, so we use HTMLs whenever you're doing web applications. But that doesn't mean like we will create HTMLs anytime. So, but there were ready-made things to do. So if I create like element.etree of HTML, so it is just an element, right? So in LXML, you can create any elements. If I just create all the elements and execute, I get like a tag. In a HTML script, the opening and closing tags will be HTMLs. So that's the most difference. That's the main difference, but like everything else will be the same. So you can do like, so you can take what are the elements you want, and you can ask what is the tag information and others. It is same like the others. And similarly, when you're creating also, we can add like some kind of information. So this is one of the simple example for you to see. So till now you're creating elementary. So apart from that, I'm passing some information, like anything like the attributes. If you pass, it will take that and it will create. Did you see whatever I passed, it came like that? So that's how the element is created. And similarly, like if you want to add some sub elements to it, so you can add something like this. You see here, I created a elementary.element of HTML. So you created. So whenever you're creating itself, you see here, this is a point where you write a lot of times. First, earlier you're creating an object, and for that you're doing dot text. Here you're creating and adding text all at one shot. So did you see how it was created? And in the same fashion, if you have so this one also you can read in the same fashion. So whenever you have parsing, say parsing the HTML, if I say, you can see like I'm importing this etree and etree.xml of, if let's say I was given a big XML. So I'm parsing it and I'm doing a pretty print equal to true. If I do like pretty print equal to true, so it will do in a better way. So this is how I parsed it. Or similarly, if I have one more HTML, so this time like I have like this, XML declaration equal to true. This is the extra thing I'm doing. Now, did you see that? The XML declaration came in the top. So XML version it is showing. And like an ASCII encoding or whatever maybe. And similarly, when you're parsing itself, so we can take to an object. So there is one more interesting module called as IO. So from IO, so import string IO. So this is very interesting. I will show it about it afterwards. Sometimes if you want to work with the files, if you don't have file, but still assuming that file will come, how the file data will be structured way, right? If you want to work, in that case, you do like this also. You see, I have a string, ordinary string, and I am converting to a string IO object. From that again, I'm parsing. So till now what? I'm taking the actual string and I'm creating like this one XML object. And from that I'm doing right. So here also I can do. So what is the point of the string IO module means IO module is for that. Mainly if you have when you're doing unit testing and others, we use it a lot. So just to show that here I'm doing that's it. So the point here is like whenever you have content and you want to parse, And if you don't have a file and you want like a files like structure, that's where you use this one. Similarly, you have like other formats also. Just walk through it in your free time, so you'll understand. And one more thing, if you have like XLSs, yeah, this is most important. So the next, this is a very small format, that's why I didn't focus more there. So the most biggest advantage for us next is like Excel files. Excel files. In real time, we work with it a lot. Same like till now how you work with other things, here also we can work. So for working also, there were different modules. So we have the most common thing is, so OpenPy Excel module. And the second one is that you have XLRD. So B is like XLRD. And the third one is like you have XLSI, RX Writer. See, Excel RS Writer. So there are like totally 3 modules, but still, again, pandas is another thing which is there anyhow. So first, if I want to start processing using like OpenPyXL, so how the OpenPyXL helps us in writing the files. So first and foremost, when you're working, say with OpenPyXL dot, say like IPYND. So how do you work with it? So if I can start with import OpenPyXL, if I execute, so it is not there, so we need to install it. So how do you do? The same thing, right? I told. So $pip install OpenPyXL. And like if I install and subsequently I do, if it is not there, it will install, right? Subsequently, if I do like -U also, if it is installed, it try to update also. So after doing it, if I try to use it, so it will come using it. And if I say dir of this OpenPyXL, did you notice the list of attributes it has? So it has a lot of things like LXML and others, which is using is part of it. But still it has a lot of things. If you see here, you see the cell, character, and all these things are there. Now you will understand. Till now, what are files you did? That is one side. But OpenPyXL is slightly different. So whenever you want to create a book or something, so we use it. So how do you do it? So let me do in like a object by object. So from OpenPyXL, import workbook. So workbook is very interesting thing. So if I can do like first I create a workbook is equal to this. See, capital is different, small is different, right? Maybe like for you to better understand. So I do like, say WB is equal to workbook I created. Okay. So for this workbook, how it actually works, I will tell. If I can open any Excel file, if you have any like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets or anything, so I open like anything. One second.